Oh, let's see. Oh boy, it's being recorded also.
That's great.
So
okay, now it's starting to download the app, but it was taking so long last time I tried it again and then it kind of messed up.
Okay.
So let's just wait a minute and see if it will actually.
Okay. Javier, can you hear Meizhu on my phone?
No mucho, pero ¿por qué no puede entrar a Teams?
It's downloading the app.
No tiene que download, solo entrar en.
Yeah, I downloaded it, Meizhu, and then I found that wherever it said Microsoft Teams, I just hit that and that put me in immediately.
Okay. It's almost done downloading, it looks like, so let me just check.
Okay, actually, yeah.
Once it downloads, then I have to put it onto my desktop.
Okay, and
then I have to open the little thing.
Yes, and where?
And then click that, I guess, to open it. Let's see. There's a box. Oh, wait, here. You'll be guided through the steps. Oh, okay, here I go. It's still waiting for me to, this will take space, click install, all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Preparing for Microsoft Teams. Okay, I think it's gonna work. Yay. Installation successful. So now what?
Now, okay.
Now it's loading Microsoft Teams.
Yes.
And do I just click that?
Click that.
Here we go. Here we go. Join now.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Here we go.
Javier, all I see is my whole screen is you, and then I am there's Meizhu coming in now.
Yeah, let's see. Hey, hello. Nice to see you. Your mic.
Meizhu, can you see us?
It's up and right.
Okay.
Need to unmute here.
Yeah.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we are.
And can you see me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I see you. And
okay, I see you too. Oh yeah, I see. I'm a little thing down at the bottom. Yay!
Okay. Good, Javier.
You know, it's funny. We use Zoom so much, we don't realize that there are other platforms that are really similar. Well, Nova has one that we've used a couple of times.
I actually use this platform every day for my classes. It's the official platform for the University of Guanajuato.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really a good business. That's a lot of people that are using it then.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah. All right. Good. Well, I don't know, Javier, you had some thoughts about this interview. I was thinking that because we talked with Eligio about the situation with the teachers, 0 to 12th grade, I believe, up through high school, but we haven't covered anything about the university. So I just wondered if you wanted to talk more about the university.
Yeah, of course.
And I thought just, because it seems like there's a contrast between the teachers and how militant they are in the public schools, but the universities, it seems less so, but I'm not really sure. So that's what I wanted to find out more about. And Bruce, you should chime in too. So I thought maybe you could just give us a little bit of background on the lower grade teachers, because my first question had to do with when the teachers were sent out into the rural areas, when they made education universal, and how that influenced those young people at the time who went out into those areas to see the conditions that people were living in, kind of radicalize them. And I guess that's not so true of university people. So yeah, what do you think? And what's your thoughts about just the lower grade teachers and how they became so militant?
Well, Bruce, you wanted to say something?
Well, the one thing that I wanted to note a similarity between the educational system and the medical system. When somebody in medical school, before they are allowed to begin to practice on their own or with the Seguro Social system or whatever, they are supposed to do 2 years out in the field somewhere working, and it could be out in a rural area, in a small village, or in a community in Mexico City or in an urban area. And the idea is that supposedly the medical system is supposed to serve the people. And who are the people? Well, they are, the vast majority of people are poor and working people. Now, if you are from a wealthy background, middle-class family with political connections, you can avoid this. You can avoid having to be sent into a small community that really is underserved. And in some cases, if you really want to be involved in a poor community, for example, and you've just completed your 3 or 4 years of basic medical training in medical school, you can ask to be sent to a community that really is underserved. And often that can happen. Otherwise, the system chooses for you. And it seems that there is something similar in the education system where, I mean, I remember when I lived in the village in Sinaloa, the first time that I went traveling way up into the mountains into very small, poor villages that didn't have electricity, for example, there were little schools and that teachers would be sent to. I don't know how things are now with the drive to privatize the education system during the previous PRI and PAN regimes. I don't know, and I've been away from that for a very long time. But the question that you are raising is how is, if it's true that for people who become teachers at the lower levels, the primary and I guess secondary levels, what is the difference between where they go and teach and at the university level? There's, I can't speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kind of the different history of the two sets of teachers.
Oh yeah, and in Mexico, the history of education is really, really interesting because during ancient times before the Europeans invaded us, education among the Aztecs, among the Mexica people in central Mexico was like twofold. One was for the regular people, and some more sophisticated education was for the elite. There were 2 different schools for people from childhood to adultness. And I mean, there was a formal education for everyone, or almost for everyone. during the time of the colony, the New Spain, so-called New Spain, 300 years we were colony of Spain, and during that time the Catholic Church held the education process so that religious contents and also some philosophical content was given, because philosophy, Spanish language, of course, and some notions of mathematics were obligatory. But religion was the main criterion. So they decided what to teach and for what purpose. And the purpose for education mainly was to educate the elites, because for poor people, for slaves, for servants, there was no formal education. I mean, there were some people educated in school, but those were exceptions to the norm, exceptions. So during the 19th century, already during the time of independent Mexico, after our struggle from 1810 to 1821, during the Revolution of Independence, and then the whole 19th century was there was a struggle between two projects of Mexico, two projects of nation. One of the royalists, the conservatives, and the other were the Republicans, the liberals. So there were also two projects of education system corresponding to two different visions of the world, two different visions of Mexico and the people. But it was only in after the Mexican Revolution from 1910 to 1917, when it was written already in the Constitution, the Revolutionary Constitution of 1917, that in the third article of the Constitution, where it was stated that education should be for all the people, and the state should provide basic education for the people. And then during the during the 20th century, yeah.
Was that partly to undercut the power of the church? There was a revolt away from the church as well?
Well, it was during the mid 19th century when actually the state and the church became separated entities, that education also was separated from the church. That was for good. That was for good, but because they then the teachers were allowed to teach the principles of science in a scientific way, and not religious, not beliefs, but science. But it was the system. There's a thing called the hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum is that even if I have the, a PhD in some specialty, some science, I keep being me. So what I teach is also biased by my personality, by my personal history, and so on and so on. That hidden curriculum determines what you do, in fact, independently of what you are, what you owe to do from the, the program or the education system. The person determines a lot. But
let me ask
the
something.
20th century, yes, Bruce.
I'm on Zoom.
I just wanted to ask, that's very interesting what you were just saying. And I guess what I wanted to ask is, do you integrate in your teaching with your students your own personal and, subjective political views?
Of course. How can you?
What a dumb question, huh?
I think that's inevitable. That's inevitable.
That's what I mean.
Because it leaks from my ears, from my nose, from my mouth, from my body language.
Right.
It's leaking leftists' beliefs. Yeah.
What a surprise.
Yeah. Well, my question though is, how are those teachers trained that were, you're supposed to have universal education, but where did all these teachers come from?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a gap between 1917, when the new revolutionary constitution was published, and the 1930s, when during the government of Lázaro Cárdenas, was a project pushed forward by the government of socialist education, socialist basic education. I want to show you one picture. Let me share my screen. Can you see this?
Great. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what you can see in the photo down below is a group of children with an official book of socialist education. Socialist education. There was a huge project of President Lázaro Cárdenas del Río during the 30s that wanted the teachers to get involved with the community, because teachers, in their vision, in the vision of President Cárdenas, were meant to modernize indigenous rural communities that were so undeveloped, and they needed some techniques for farming, for producing what we eat. They needed different ways to get some drinking water, to have clean restrooms, and so on and so on. So teachers, in that view, in the project of socialist education, were activists, clearly, openly activists. And that produced a reaction in the left-wing politicians and the conservative population in Mexico. There was a reaction, and people, Catholic, conservative people in Mexico, were fighting against socialist education, because in their view, I think it was like a lack of information, just prejudices. They thought we were going to be a colony of the USSR.
Right.
We will be governed by Stalin and things like those. But it worked. I mean, there were an active opposition to this project. It was also created a new political party, the PAN, Partido Acción Nacional.
That was way back then.
His original purpose, his original aim was to stop Lázaro Cárdenas and his project of socialist education, to put reverse to the agrarian reform, to the land reform, and to return all the petrol industry to foreign companies.
United States and Great Britain.
Yeah, mainly Great Britain and the United States, but also Holland.
Royal Dutch Shell.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And there was there was also a project of creating a series of school for teachers. We call those schools Escuela Normal. Escuela Normal is the school where the teachers are formed. It's like a French model for for teachers formation. But in this case, with socialist leftist bias. I have to say that that's project of socialist education was full of content about revolutions, about social justice, but in terms of the left, that was the mainstream left. That was the Soviet left, mainly the Soviet left. A lot of Eurocentric contents. In some way, they were good. They were critical because they taught children and young people about class struggles, about the importance of labor movement, and about the rural life, and the importance of the labor of the peasants. That was good, but there was a clear lack of references to indigenous social movements. There was a silence about repression against indigenous communities in Mexico, indigenous peoples. That was the left.
But did that education support the communal landowning of the peasantry, of the indigenous people, the ejido?
Yeah, because at the same time, Lázaro Cárdenas's government was helping people to conform the ejidos, the community land owning. So they needed to organize and to create a formal organization to fund the ejido. So it was at the same time. There was a huge project. Education was one part of that project, but also community organization.
Right. So that is kind of a socialist idea as well, and so I'm sure that those populations also, really like that.
And also, in order those communities could be able to get government aid, government aid in technology, in technical knowledge, and so on and so on. So only organized people could be able to help them. So there were very interesting times in the history of education, but right now those rural escuelas normales rurales.
How long did that system last of socialist education? Sorry? Did it last from like 1917 until the end of like 1938 or something, or how long did that go on?
Well, socialist education was finished in the 50s.
Oh,
because
50s.
the huge resistance, not only in the rural areas, but also in urban areas, and the newborn political party, the PAN, was opposing already in the Congress, because they, as a official political party, they were able to have some diputados and senators also, and they terminated that project. But there were some remains about that. Las escuelas normales rurales, like Ayotzinapa and many others all around the country, all over the country. Las normales rurales actually exist even today. Just a few of them, because many were just destroyed because the rightists here in Mexico spread like fake news, the idea that there were like nests of revolutionaries, nests of problematic troublemakers. Yeah.
Javier, let me just make a couple of just real quick comments. I don't know how useful they are. Ayotzinapa is in the state of Guerrero, and that's the state where you are from. That's one thing. Another is that we happen to live just maybe 200 meters away from the normal school, the Escuela Normal, here in Guanajuato. That's right below our house. But another thing I wanted to mention is that in the United States, there had been teacher colleges, which are like normal schools, in every state of the United States. Mainly, they're all gone, except I think 1 or 2 states, they still exist. How they operate, I don't know exactly, but it's very interesting that in the United States, it used to be that in every state, there was a teacher's college. Like
but Mexico, they didn't necessarily send out socialist teachers.
I don't think so.
So I think, it's interesting, because if there was this socialist education from 1917 until almost the 50s, you have several generations of people who were, learned about all of those ideas. That's pretty amazing and different.
Yeah, I also think that that kind of formation of teachers and young people influenced the union movement of teachers. That's why otherwise we could not explain the force, the strength of the CENTE, the teachers union in Mexico. Right. It was a huge, it is actually even now a huge union. In recent times, corrupted by the power, by neoliberals. They corrupted the leaders, and then they stopped fighting for better conditions for teachers, for better conditions for the teachers that are for young teachers that are coming into the system, and they were just trying to preserve all the benefits they got decades ago, and not getting new ones, not improving their labor conditions and the living conditions of the teachers. That's why also a left wing was born into the CENTE, into the Sindicato Nacional de Trabajadores de Educación. The left wing was the CENTE with C, not with an S, but C, right. CENTE. The left wing, very critical to their corrupted leaders. They, they do not control the collective contract, but their struggle is very democratic and a force that democratizes the system and the very union and the government. They have been very critical to AMLO. They have been very critical to the present government, federal government in Mexico, but they also have been allies to our movement in different parts of the country, in different states, not officially, but in the praxis, in fact, they have been supporting our movement in different ways. We have also some diputados and also senators from the CENTE with the C, the left wing of the C. They are now diputados and senators for Morena. So that's good news, because that's regarding to basic education and the teachers in basic education, but also in university level, where we have very dramatic changes in recent decades, because during the neoliberal period, university education was like abandoned by the federal government. It was not an accident. It was not a naive, act of, blindness, or I don't know. It was premeditated abandonment of superior education, of higher education, in order to privatize it. That means that when you do not invest in education, it decays. It decays because you need new technologies, you need the infrastructure, you need to hire new teachers in different and new areas of knowledge that didn't exist before, but they exist right now. So you need to hire more and more. You have to, the population doesn't stop growing, and you have to have a symmetrical growing of your universities. They abandoned at the universities, so people needed education, and that was the empirical conditions for private universities to be created and to rise and develop. And right now,
So before the neoliberal period, were most of the universities also public? And what would you say is the proportion today of public versus private universities?
Well, I guess the numbers are dramatically. I don't have the numbers right now, right here, but at least in my state, in the state where I live now, in Guanajuato, in the central part of Mexico, the majority of the people, young people studying in universities, are now in private universities. I'm afraid that in many states, is the same situation. It's the same situation because the lack of support for public universities was like a
Zoom.
Yeah, it was like a pressure, you know, where you cook the
Pressure cooker.
pressure cooker, a pressure cooker, and the valve of for the steam was the private education. So it was a great business for the capital. For the capital, a great business during decades, and even now, because for different reasons, many people go there. Even people that are in disadvantage in economic terms, they sacrifice family economies to pay the fees in private education.
So is the public education still free at the university level or quite cheap?
Well, there's no like an answer just yes or no. It's complicated because, well, right now during the present government and with the help of our legislators in both chambers, we have changed the neoliberal education reform into another thing, to make the higher education free. And it has the background right now is the Constitution. Now the Constitution says in its third article that education in all levels provided by the state should be free. Free. Okay, that's mandatory because it's in the Constitution. But in the reality, in the field, we need a process to make that a real thing, to make university accessible for all the people. There's a problem here. There's a good thing that represents a problem. How can a good thing be a problem? Well, autonomy of the public universities in Mexico, in this case, means that AMLO or the federal government right now cannot decide for them to become bigger, to offer new careers, to receive more students, because they are autonomous. That means that they govern themselves. They are being subsidized by the government, but they decide what to do with those money, with those money. So they decide. That's an obstacle for the government to improve and to widen the public education in all the states. That's why AMLO's government created a new program, a program of hundreds of new universities. That system is called the Universidades del Bienestar Benito Juárez. So far, there have been created 140 new universities in different states, including Guanajuato. The purpose of these universities is to satisfy the demand of education of impoverished peoples, because the majority of the people in Mexico, more than 70%, are poor, below the line of poverty, and they cannot pay for education. Because I will answer your question. Even the public universities in Mexico are not completely free, because And it's not only a matter of the fees in universities. Right. You have to eat. You need a roof above your head. You need to dress. You need transportation. You need many things. That means that even public university are elitist universities. Many people cannot pay for their children's education.
Right.
That's why that gives, justification and gives sense to this project of AMLO, Universidades del Bienestar Benito Juárez, because people, they don't pay any fees and they are being fed. They eat into university. They have or will have dorms for free.
Will they be autonomous as well?
Sorry?
Will they be autonomous too, like the other universities? You said
now they are not. Right now they are not. But I do not doubt that AMLO will support if a union of teachers of that system of universities create a fight for the autonomy of that system. That could be a very good thing, especially in the frame of the new labor laws in Mexico that protect the workers and not the patrons.
Right. Well, now the leadership of the universities, were they appointed by the PRI before, and are these university leaders appointed by AMLO?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
The leaders
of universities?
Yeah, like the leaders under the neoliberal regime, were the heads of those appointed by the PRI, like the labor leaders were, and so on?
Well, in the frame of the university autonomy, they decided who were the leaders in the universities and also in the unions. Every public university in Mexico has its unions. Sometimes they separate unions for administrative workers and other for faculty members. That's the case of the University of Guanajuato. My friend Bruce wants to say something. He wants to say something. Yeah.
In every country around the world, students and including professors have always been part of the vehicle for making social change. The student movements in Mexico, including at the UNAM, which is the largest university in the hemisphere, has more students than any other university in this whole side of the world. The UNAM has a history of student struggle for basic rights and education, and have continued to struggle for all of the things that you were just describing, to make it possible for them to even have access to education. And the things that you were just saying, Javier, about to go to school, you have to live, you have to be able to eat, you have to have a roof over your head. But another very big thing that is true everywhere is access to internet. And that's something right now that, I know that because you and I have talked, your students, some of your students have a very hard time just having internet. And another thing is also having a decent computer or laptop. And as we have talked about before, for many people, their computer is this. This is their computer, right? And so that access, that part of one of the tools for access to education is a very big thing. And that exists actually all over the world, particularly in poor countries. So just the first thing that I was mentioning about students being, and student movements being just always historically central for struggling for social change, and in Mexico for a vision of a Mexico that is free of oppression, and is more equal and more democratic. That's always been the case. And professors, I know many professors, for example, are in Morena and have been part of making Morena what it is today. So I was just, to boil this down into a question about what is now the future for a new society in Mexico with respect to education and students and faculty struggling for that.
Yeah, well, I think we are living new times, full of hope.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes.
that's my view. That's my view, because what I see is that without getting money from the World Bank and how do you say, Bruce, FME?
The International Monetary Fund.
International Monetary Fund. Without
IMF.
Getting money from the International Monetary Fund, we are creating these universities. Without getting into debt, we have vaccines. We are building tens and tens of hospitals all over the country. I think these are very good times that anticipate a new chapter in Mexico's history, a chapter where people consciously will reject any attempt of the leftist, of the rightist, to go back to neoliberalism. They won't allow that thing. I hope so, because I cannot be sure of that. You have seen what happened in Bolivia, in Ecuador, in Brazil, after Lula and Vilma. Now it's Bolsonaro. But it's very important for us to understand that without political formation for the people, without that political formation, there is always a danger, the threat of the second coming of the rightists, of the fascists. So this is really important. That's why I think the new system of the universities of the AMLO's government should include some political formation, not to support Morena, not to support AMLO, but to respect ourselves, to begin to study our own history in different terms, not in Eurocentric terms. That's very important, to reevaluate the importance of our indigenous heritage, to reevaluate the importance of Latin American history, Latin American literature, arts, and Latin American indigenous peoples as sources of liberation thought, liberation thinking, because when people in the Western world, including the United States, try to fight against pollution, against global warming, and so on and so on. They never say and never will say that the problem is capitalism.
Yeah.
They are trying to find the solution in the minimal things and secondary things, but not the main thing. It's capitalist system that is destroying our planet, and by the way, destroying us as a species. You know, we are endangered species by capitalism, not by ourselves, because neoliberal education tells us that we are putting our planet in danger. No, it's not me. It's not me. It's capitalism. It's the big industry. It's the war. It's the exploitation of the planet, of the Earth. That's what is putting us in danger of disappearing, of extinction. It's not me individually. It's not you. It's not my community. It's not my people. So I hope they are teaching the good history, and for emancipation, for liberation. Liberation from what? Liberation from Eurocentrism, liberation from racism that puts us as the problem, that puts us as the obstacle for modernity, to the obstacle. We are the obstacle for development, for progress. No, we need to study our history in other terms, in our own terms.
That's where you. That's where the.
The terms where we have dignity, because in the traditional way of teaching history and philosophy and so on, we always are the problem. We are the primitive, we are the savages, we are the troublemakers, you know. But the thing is otherwise.
So
the opposite.
That's what you mean. That's what you mean by the importance of political formation. But I was going to ask you, it seems like the professors in the universities don't seem to have the same militancy or passion for justice that we've seen in some of the lower level teachers, like in Chiapas and Michoacan. Has there been support by university professors for the teachers movement in those areas? Any connection between the higher level teachers and the lower grade teachers? No?
No, sadly, I have to say that there is no connection between our unions. The union I belong to, the union of teachers, of faculty members in the Universidad de Guanajuato, is like autist, is only looking at itself. It has no signs, not any sign of solidarity to other unions.
Including teachers. That's terrible.
Yeah, even with teachers of different levels of the other universities, the support is only, as we say, de dientes para afuera. I mean, just words and words, but no actual, no practical, not empirical support in effective ways. In effective ways. What means effective ways? In ways that should have a result, a positive result. You know, that's a shame. I am ashamed by my own union, by belonging to this union, very conservative, and that's a pattern in Mexico. That's a pattern, because we don't see activism from our unions in public universities supporting the feminist struggle for justice, for the right of living without violence, so on and so on. There's no, actually, there is no an effective support, and not between our unions. There's a federation of unions of faculty members in public university. It is actually. It appears in social media, in the mainstream media also, but we receive low salaries, and we have a lot of colleagues, teachers like me, but they are being paid a very low salary, even lower than my salary, and they have no definitive, they are not definitively hired.
No tenure is what we call it.
Renewed. Their contracts are being renewed every 3 months, every 6 months, and when the administration, central administration in my university decides not to renew their contract, they are out without any rights. Without any rights. That's not fair. That's not just. And we, as a union, we have done nothing effective, just words and promises. That's why I feel.
So it hasn't even done anything for the members, let alone support other social movements.
Yeah, of course. Only words, only declarations, but no permanent campaign for supporting women, for supporting zapatistas, for supporting people struggling for the water, like the yaquis in Sonora and so on.
So there's no philosophy really of what unions should mean, what unity should mean. But in that case, recently AMLO criticized the universities for being elitist and perpetuating elitist thinking. Do you think that's true?
Yeah. Actually, I do. I think that the University of Guanajuato, for instance, University of Guanajuato is elitist. No doubt of that, because they people need to pay very high fees because they teach. There is the content of what we teach here is very Eurocentric, very always trying to justify the system as it is. Not criticize it, but just to try to understand how things work.
Do you have control over your own curriculum in your courses? Can each professor kind of teach what they want you do? That's good.
There is a thing, there's a legal figure called here Libertad de Cátedra. Libertad de Cátedra means that I can decide how to teach the subject they gave to me to teach young people. They give me some outlines, but further I can create my own syllabus, my own program, and I can just mention those outlines, official outlines, and teach what I want to teach and how I want to teach. But that's in public universities. I think it's not the same. Well, I know it's not the same in private university, where they can get into your classroom and monitor without your permission, monitor your class, your contents, and so on and so on. But in public university, it doesn't happen this way. We have more liberty to do that. Yeah, Bruce?
Javier, what do you think that it would take? And this is probably very unrealistic. What do you think it would take to get your union or your union members to make a public declaration of support for the workers at GM Silao?
Well, maybe what is needed is a new meteorite like the one that fell 65 million years ago and extinct.
I knew you would say that.
And reborn, we all reborn.
So
or
the dinosaurs.
yeah, a massive extinction of the unions that exist today. Or the alternative is that
yeah,
people I know or me myself could be, you know, Secretary General of my union, maybe. But and I know some people, maybe the fingers in both my hands were too many to number the progressive, you know,
professors,
teachers here that were that could have the intention to express the support for the union, for Cynthia, out loud. They are too afraid. They are too conservative. They teach things that you know, reproduce the system. For example, in the Faculty of Economy here in the University of Guanajuato, they teach neoliberal economy.
Yeah.
That's why they teach right now. Right now, they are teaching neoliberal economy just for people to understand how the system works, how it should be keep working, and not how to transform it to a more to economy with solidarity, with you know, responsible to the environment. No, they are teaching neoliberal economy right now in front of my nose.
So is there any kind of legacy from the 1968 rebellions and the massacre at Tlatelolco?
Tlatelolco, yeah. Yes, but not in the University of Guanajuato, maybe in the UNAM.
Really? You know, because that UNAM was the one that was criticized by AMLO for being elitist, so.
Yeah, almost all the rectors of the universities, of public universities, earn more than the president of Mexico.
In the United States, it's the football coaches.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
More than the university presidents.
Yeah, and they are even.
They are the elite. Part of the elite, for sure.
Yeah, they don't want to change the structure because these structures guarantee them their privileges. So if they change the structures that support their privileges, everything for them will, you know, collapse, and they don't want their privileges to collapse. Yeah. But what young people here in Guanajuato talked us in December 2019, I'm sorry, they taught us during the feminist strike is that those structures, patriarchal structures that reproduce violence against women here within the University of Guanajuato, but also is those structures which support the privileges of the golden bureaucracy in the University of Guanajuato. And this model of structures of patriarchy in Guanajuato are, you know, the same in many other public universities in Mexico. It's we need more strikes like that one in 2019 in Guanajuato. We need more strikes all over the country, and the
so
whole.
that strike was women's students.
Yeah,
women's students and their supporters.
Mainly they were the leaders, and many, men students joined them, but they were the leaders, women, feminist students.
Many hundreds were out in front of the university, and it was a remarkable thing to see all of them. I mean, all of a sudden, to see that many people out there. We walked through, and the people were so wonderful. They said, please don't take any photographs of anybody here because of our own security. And the numbers of male students was just phenomenal.
That's great.
And also remember that Cynthia made a public declaration of support for the feminist movement at the university.
Oh yeah, they
great.
also.
But what about professors, the faculty? Did they join in with the strike?
Some of them, yes. Some of them, yes. I was there, and I saw some colleagues supporting those young people.
Okay.
I am a impoverished teacher, but I donated some money and did practical things to help them, and some other colleagues also. But it was a teeny tiny minority of teachers supporting.
Teachers.
They were afraid, especially those teachers that were, pointed, that were accused of harassment to students, to female students here. They didn't appear. They were away from that place. There was a huge wall full of papers with the names of harassing teachers and also rapers. Teachers and students, male teachers, male students that practiced the harassment and also the rape of students, of colleagues, female. That was huge. That was very powerful.
Did they win anything?
Yes, they won the creation of a real area of the university, attending, giving support to people, in these cases, female students and teachers, victims of harassment, of sexual violation, and so on and so on, because it already existed, but it was just like a empty thing, just formal, just for the appearance, for the photograph, but unable to do anything fundamental. What they did was a whole list, petition, very, full of demands, and they were almost all of them were accomplished, were fulfilled, and that was great. It's not enough, but they know that they have the strength of organizing, of public action. They are, I compared that strike with my union.
Yeah.
My union is, I am ashamed of that union, but I am very proud. I am very proud of those young people, because they made fundamental changes in the university, in our consciousness. We are not the same. We cannot be the same before that strike. But my union has decades and decades, and nothing happens. Nothing changes. They are serving the rector. They are working for the rector, not for us, the base, the workers. But those young people, in 1 month, changed a lot of things here in the university. Especially, they changed our subjectivity, our minds.
Well, it's good to change your minds, but were any of these male aggressors, was anybody fired? Was anybody had charges filed against them for rape, for assault?
Well, 4 of them were sanctioned, were punished. Punished. The punishment was a workshop, like a workshop about masculinities, and that's it. That's it.
That doesn't seem like a big victory, frankly. I'm sorry. If that's all that happened.
No. That's why I say it's not enough. We have to do many things. But they showed us the way. They showed us the way, and we have to walk that way. And we just began to walk that way. But yes, but they know they are strong enough to not being silent anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They now are empowered to point to the teacher or the fellow student that is harassing them or has abused them. They are strong enough to do that. And now no teacher, no authority within the university will deny, will reject support for women allegedly victims of aggression, because what we learned is that we need to believe when they say they are being victims of sexual aggression, harassment, and so on. So the first thing is to believe them. And then there is a protocol. There's a protocol to get right to the truth, Mm-hmm. Different versions. But before that strike, the first reaction of the university was not to believe them, to reject that something is happening, to deny that something's happening. And that is why the problem was like a snowball. But beginning with the denial of support. And now it's different. Now the thing begins with believing the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
that's great.
we need to get to the truth, right? But the start point is different. Mm-hmm. The start point right now is to believe the victim.
Yeah, as opposed to not believe them. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think those are really most of my questions. I mean, I think that your emphasis on political formation is so important, but it seems like it's going to have to be, starting with socialist education in the lower grades and moving right up into the teachers' colleges, into the universities. Just like how do we transform the attitudes and the neoliberal curriculum, et cetera. That's going to be a process. But the starting with the new universities, that sounds like a good start.
Yeah, there's a thing very interesting in Latin America that is happening right now. We are more often speaking about philosophy of liberation. And also reading about philosophy of liberation. It is related actually with the theology of liberation of the 70s. But right now is not just theology. Theology is like a part of philosophy. Philosophy is much wider, and it means that we have to criticize that Eurocentrism I was talking about at the beginning of this talk, and also to find new references here in Latin America, in our writers, in our intelligentsia, in our literature, in our indigenous peoples. Because what we have here is several practices, several ways of life here that give us the some very strong base for hope. We need to learn from our indigenous peoples. I have said this before many times, because I really believe that we don't need to find some references, some good examples in Spain or United States or England or Germany to live well. To live well, we have to turn our head and look to our neighbors, all the community social dynamics, positive, when we organize and do things in different scales, in the scale of my alley, my barrio, or my town, my state, my country, my Latin America. And yes, that's why I insist that we have to help to connect unions here in Mexico and the United States when they are doing the same labor, the same work. Workers in factories, workers in the field, and everywhere. We're trying to connect because the causes are the same, the needs are the same, and when we are able to see that connection, maybe they see them, they see that connection, maybe they do not see that connection, but we, looking at those connections, those similarities, we cannot ignore that they exist, and we cannot avoid trying to do something positive to, as the communists in 19th century said, for the workers of the world, unite. That's what I believe. And Cynthia right now is feeling the support of other unions. That's good news. They talked. They told Bruce and me that they have some support from unions in Brazil and different places, and that's beautiful, when workers from different parts of the planet recognize each other and say, hey, I'm here, I'm with you, I am you, and I am because you are. We are strong because we are the same. And if we could connect them, help to connect them, that would be a very great thing. And I think our bulletin of our project, Mexico Solidarity Project, it could be a good means to improve that connections, to develop those connections. I also believe that our bulletin has a little bit awkward way to get to the people. I think email is like, obsolete, a little bit obsolete. Email is a little bit obsolete for that bulletin. We need to use with more energy, social media, Facebook and Instagram, and but I'm sorry, but I really believe that email is a little bit obsolete.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just don't know anything about how to use the other media, but hopefully we can get Chewy back on it once Chewy is good at that stuff. So hopefully he can do more of that, and maybe Gabrielle as well. So that's a good point. But I think with the Cynthia struggle, we now have more direct contact as opposed to just through a bulletin. So this is a breakthrough for us to be able to actually do some kind of a campaign. So we're really excited about that.
I want to send to both of you something about a book that I just learned about, a new book that's called The Dawn of Everything. Have you heard of it, Meizhu?
No.
It's a fascinating book written by two men, one who's British and the other guy is a deceased American archaeologist. The other person is an anthropologist. They wrote it together. And David Grieber is the person who died. And he was one of the people who was really sort of a founder of the Occupy movement. And as an archaeologist, it's quite amazing, this book that the two of them put together before David Grieber died. And it deals it's pretty lengthy, I think maybe 700 pages, but it deals very much with just what you've been talking about now in the later part of your talk right now, Javier. I'm going to find out more about it. I don't know that it's been translated to Spanish, but I'll send to both of you. I learned about it this morning on Democracy Now!
Let me show you.
I'll let people know about your suggestion to have a meteor come down and wipe out all of the Charo unions. But also, Javier, can you send me that picture of the children with the socialist education textbooks? We can use that for the interview.
Let me show you quickly. Let me show you quickly some other images. But yes, I can send you this photograph.
Yes, send me that one for sure. And if there's any of the feminist strike, that would be good.
Here's your question. So I was trying to answer your question. There are some views of the Universidades Benito Juárez, the new system in 6 areas of knowledge, 36 careers. This is the UNAM, public university. Here, Ibero, Puebla, is a private university, Jesuit university, very elitist because it's very, very expensive. And not everything is bad in Ibero, but well, it's private and expensive. Well, this is the subsecretary of higher education in Mexico right now, and he was a member of the Communist Party when it existed, and he's criticizing also some universities in Mexico are in crisis because they do not manage their money. They spend money in superficial things, but not in the main thing that is students. They are criticizing. They are in financial crisis. They are claiming for support from federal government, and federal government says, well, you have to restructure your administration because you are spending too much money in superficial things, and you have to spend more in students. And so while you don't make a restructuring like a perestroika inside your universities, you will not have more money than you are receiving right now constitutionally, because the money that people, public universities receive right now is mandatory by constitutional articles. So they need more. AMLO says, yes, I can give you more, but first you have to make your own perestroika. They don't want to, because that perestroika means that rectors should earn less than they earn right now. This is the logo of my union, up left, my union and the administrative union in the Universidad de Guanajuato. They are, very conservative. They are not really, they do not represent us. They represent the administration, actually. This is Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire is a Brazilian philosopher, pedagogist, teacher, and says education doesn't change the world. Education changes the people that are going to change the world. And that's a saying from him. And this is Epistemologías del Sur. That is how we name the different styles and contents of knowledge from our point of view, from our Latin American peripheral, not non-central and non-Western point of view. Epistemology.
Well,
It means the global South,
Yeah.
not the geographical South.
The graphic you had on the previous page, that is by Renee Templeton, and we showcased her in the one on Taller. She was at the Taller Grafica.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
An American artist, but she spent a lot of time in Mexico, and she was at the Taller.
And speaking about elitist education, elitist universities, you can see here, Penn University, Columbia, Harvard, Cornell, Brown, Princeton, and so on. What I think the transformation of our education should be influenced by the struggles of originary peoples, of organized movements like ZLN, the Zapatistas. They teach good things for life.
One of the members of our project has an organization that supports this. That might even be from them. I've bought their cards.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, who are they?
Yeah, what's his name? Do you know, Bruce? I forget his name. Peter something maybe. Called School for Chiapas. Schools for Chiapas.
Oh, I've forgotten the name, but yeah.
I don't know. It's from California. I can't remember. San Francisco, maybe. I can't remember.
Well, let's see. Let's see.
That's a great picture.
Yeah. Jason Ferreira is connected with that, but that's not him.
It's not him. Yeah. Anyway.
So, Javier, if you were to send a bunch of these pictures to Meizhu, these are really good, I think, to also just have archived.
Okay. Yeah, but also this, I am recording this meeting, so I can also send you this video.
Okay.
Okay, in order to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I usually I take notes, hopefully reasonably good ones, but this way I can look it up if there's a detail I forgot.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. This is great. Excellent.
So,
well, thank you.
Javier, I have to ask you something completely off the subject real quick. Do you want me to go with you tomorrow morning? You're getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
¿Quiere que te acompañe?
No, Bruce, that's
fine.
That's too violent to you.
Yeah, Meizhu. Claudia, Javier's wife, is leaving on a 4:00 in the morning flight.
Oh my goodness. That's early. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Bruce, just to remind you, we have a call at let's see, what time for you? 8 o'clock about the bulletin.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah. And I hope I can get my Zoom to work again. I've got to hope either that or maybe Sam has one. I don't know.
Was it being used by somebody else in the organization?
No. No. Just couldn't even sign in.
Okay.
Well, thank you for rescuing us, Javier, with your teams.
Okay, anytime.
I think that there's so much substance to what you were just saying for a really great interview, very hard-hitting and colorful. There's really so much to it.
Yeah, I will. So I will draft it up and send it to you, Javier, and you can approve and so on, both of you.
I will.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Okay,
it's sunny at your place. It's very sunny.
Yeah, it's sunny today. Yeah, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Stopping the recording.